Welcome to Monograph Matters. I'm talking today with Jamie Carroll, David Yeager, and Robert Crosnoe, authors of the SRCD Monograph on Mindset by Context, Schools, Classrooms, and Unequal Translation of Expectations into Math Achievement. This discussion focuses on what is the origin story of the concept of mindset by context within ecological contexts. So, what is the origin story of the concept of mindset by context within ecological contexts? Why do we need ecological model of mindset and in context?
So the reason why we need an ecological model of mindset by context is because young people are acquiring mindsets through socialization. And mindsets are going to be defined broadly as their beliefs about themselves and the world around them that have the power to influence self-regulation and goal pursuit. And but the world doesn't just impose a mindset on a child in early childhood and then let them loose, because a mindset is just a predisposition to make an interpretation or a given meaning in a given circumstance. So it's always going to depend, in terms of its effects, on later opportunities to act on that belief. So psychologists have always known this. If you think about how we do our laboratory studies, we measure or manipulate someone's beliefs, and then we either put them under a challenge or a non-challenge, and we only expect effects under the challenge, for instance. So in the lab, we're manipulating the opportunity to act on a mindset, right? In the real world, though, there's all kinds of variations. There are settings with more or less challenge, and there are settings with more or less support to act on your mindset when challenged. For instance, a peer group that would make fun of you if you tried hard and maybe even call you a try hard. So that might be an opportunity that could undermine how much you act on your mindset. On the other hand, there might be a supportive peer group or a group of teachers that are great mentors or a strong and rigorous curriculum. So we've always thought that in the real world, in educational psychology, that these beliefs and mindsets and goals depend on the context. But we didn't really have a framework for predicting where mindsets should be put into action and where they shouldn't. And so we really needed to work closely with sociologists who are experts in thinking at a higher level of analysis in terms of thinking about norms, allocation of resources that allow people to act on their agency, and so on. And as I continued working with Jamie, lead author of this monograph, and Rob Crosnoe and Chandra Muller and others, we realized there's a perennial debate in sociology between agency on the one hand and structure on the other. And so I think the psychologists involved in designing the study became deeply interested in saying, well, what does sociology already know? And then how can we operationalize sociological thinking about context in an analysis of the individual difference of a mindset? And that's why we're thrilled that Jamie led this manuscript.
Yeah, as a sociologist, when I approach questions, I really try to see how the structure of the educational environment, how the structure of inequality within a system affects people's behaviors and their outcomes. But oftentimes kind of forgetting that these individuals within these different structures, there's variation in their own expectations and motivations and agency and drive. And that is really important. So working with psychologists like David has really helped me shape ideas around that balance between structure and agency, and how, yes, individuals within these institutions do have their own agency in order to move forward and make decisions about what they want to do. However, that is minimized potentially or lifted up by the structure. Whereas if you're in an educational environment where everyone around you is performing really highly, comes from more advantaged backgrounds, or all expecting to go to college, that is going to lift up the individuals within that school. Versus if you're in an educational environment which has low resources, a lower income student body who maybe will be first generation college students, that is a more challenging environment to be lifted up by. And so your own personal drive and your own personal motivations are really important to push you forward in that context. And so that's why putting together these mindsets with the context is essential, because we can't ignore the fact that different structures in America, given deep racial and ethnic and income inequality across the entire country and deeply embedded within our educational systems, are going to affect whether and how individuals can act on their agency, can use their expectations to get higher and to be successful.
Yeah, and I think that, Jamie, that one of the big puzzles before we did the analysis was whether a kid's mindset should matter more in more advantaged contexts because they have the chance to act on it, they're surrounded by resources, or matter less because counterfactually, there's already a rising tide that's lifting all ships. And so a kid maybe with a mindset in which they have less agency and less motivation to succeed, they could matter differently there. And so there was an open-endedness to this hypothesis that was very fun. I mean, I think psychologists are more interested often in saying, I have a theory and here's what I think is going to happen, and lo and behold, it happened. And what was really exciting was to jointly develop hypotheses with you and our other co-authors, and then let the data say, well, is the advantage context strengthening the effect of the mindset or weakening the effect of the mindset, and for whom and for which group? And that was a lot of fun to play with in this framework.
Yeah, and I'll just add as a personal perspective here, I'm a longtime member of SRCD. I'm also a longtime member of the Population Association of America. And there's a small subset of scholars who are both. One that's dominated by developmental psychologists, one of those organizations, the other one dominated by demographers. And, when I'm in my SRCD world, which I love, I'm constantly impressed by just the richness of the developmental insight and the insight into the very proximate ecology in which development takes place, families, peer groups, that sort of stuff. But I'm always often thinking, well, what about the larger world, right? Like this complex system of institutions that run our society. Where are kids in that, and how are they affected by that? But then I go to the PAA meeting and everybody's doing such a good job of interrogating that broad institutional system and the population level. I'm thinking, where are the kids, right? Where are their relationships? Where are their minds? We're in all of this stuff. And then you just wonder, I wish we could just merge all of these people together and have them have this conversation all at once. Merge those two organizations and those conferences together. That's where the National Study of Learning Mindsets emerged from, is groups coming together and having those kinds of conversations. And that is where this monograph came from too.
Read more about this topic in the monograph issue, Mindset by Context, Schools, Classrooms, and the Unequal Translation of Expectations into Math Achievement by Carroll, Yeager, Bontempo et al. If you like this video, consider watching our Monograph Matters playlist. For additional resources related to these and other issues of the monographs of the Society for Research in Child Development, please visit monographmatters.srcd.org.